Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into the world of AI today. Something pretty cutting edge.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah, we're going to be looking at a research paper all about this new AI model
Okay.
called DeepSeek-R1. And get this, it's trained to reason like a human being.
Wow.
Yeah, so get ready for some aha moments. We had a few ourselves prepping for this.
I can imagine.
So DeepSeek-R1, it's a brand new AI model from DeepSeek-AI. You've probably heard of other AI models, right? But this
Well,
one,
it's different.
yeah, this one's special. It was actually developed in 2 stages, which is interesting.
Interesting.
It all started with a version they called DeepSeek-R1-Zero.
Okay.
And this version was trained using something called reinforcement learning. What is that all about?
So reinforcement learning, it's basically like, you know how you'd teach a kid to ride a bike?
Yeah.
You wouldn't just throw a physics textbook at them, right?
No, you'd let them try.
Exactly. You'd let them try, give them encouragement, maybe some guidance along the way.
Little tips.
Right. And that's kind of the idea here. The AI gets rewarded for getting closer to the right answer, so it learns by trial and error, like the kid on the bike.
So they just kind of let it loose.
Yeah, pretty much. With DeepSeek-R1-Zero, the researchers didn't give it any pre-labeled data or anything. It had to figure everything out on its own.
So it's figuring out how to reason completely from scratch.
Exactly. And it's pretty amazing what happened. Through all this trial and error, the AI started doing some really complex reasoning stuff, like it would actually double-check its work.
No way. Like a human.
Yeah, it's wild. The researchers even said it had what they called an aha moment at one point.
An aha moment. Come on.
Yeah.
Is this AI actually thinking like we do?
Well, it's not conscious or self-aware in the way we are,
Okay.
but it does show that with the right training, AI can come up with problem-solving strategies that are more than just pattern recognition.
That's still pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah, it really is a step closer to human-like thought processes.
So we've got this DeepSeek-R1-Zero figuring things out all on its own. But how did it become the full-fledged DeepSeek-R1? What was the next step?
So as impressive as DeepSeek-R1-Zero was, the researchers realized its reasoning wasn't very clear. Like, it was hard for humans to follow its logic.
So it had the answers, but couldn't really explain how it got there.
Yeah, something like that. So for the second stage of development, they introduced this thing called a cold start phase.
Okay, a cold start. I like it.
Basically, they gave DeepSeek-R1-Zero a small set of examples.
Examples of what?
Of, good reasoning written out by humans.
So kind of like giving it a cheat sheet to get started.
Yeah, a little boost, like a framework for structuring its thoughts.
Yeah.
And after that,
Let it go again.
back to reinforcement learning. But this time,
Almost different.
it wasn't just about accuracy. It was also rewarded for giving explanations that humans could understand. Clear, step-by-step explanations.
That's pretty amazing. It's one thing for an AI to solve a problem, but to actually explain its logic, that's on another level.
Definitely. And the results they got with DeepSeek-R1 were incredible.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat now. Spill it. What did this thing actually accomplish? We're talking about reasoning here, right? Like logic puzzles.
Oh, way beyond logic puzzles. They tested DeepSeek-R1 on some serious stuff. For example, they had it take the AIM.
The what now?
The AIM, it's a super tough math exam for high school students.
High schoolers.
Yeah, but like the ones who are already excelling in math.
Oh, wow. So the top of the top.
Exactly. And DeepSeek-R1 got a 79.8% accuracy on that exam.
No way. Almost 80%.
Oh.
On a test designed for the best high school math students.
Yep. That's DeepSeek-R1 for yes.
That's insane. What else?
They also put it up against some hardcore coders in the Code Forces competitions.
Code Forces, those are like professional level, right?
Absolutely. Programmers from all over the world, super competitive.
And DeepSeek-R1 held its own.
More than held its own. It outperformed over 96% of the human participants.
Okay, this is getting ridiculous.
It's impressive, right?
This AI is a total beast. But hold on a sec.
What's up?
If it's this good,
Yeah.
couldn't it be used to teach other AI models? Is that even possible?
You're thinking in the right direction. That's where the idea of distillation comes in.
Distillation. Okay, now you've got to explain this one.
It's actually a way to transfer the knowledge of a large, complex AI model like DeepSeek-R1
Right.
to a smaller, simpler one.
So kind of like passing on the wisdom of a master to a student.
Exactly.
And what happens when you distill DeepSeek-R1? What kind of results did they get?
Well, let me tell you, the results were pretty astounding.
I bet they were. Tell me everything.
They took this smaller AI model called Quen.
Quen.
Yeah, it's got about 7 billion parameters.
Okay, so like 7 billion brain cells.
Yeah, you can think of it that way. And they had Quen learn from the data generated by DeepSeek-R1.
So Quinn is the student, DeepSeek-R1 is the teacher.
Exactly. And after training, this little 7 billion parameter Quen model actually outperformed another model called QWQ.
Wait, QWQ.
Yeah, QWQ. It's much bigger, with 32 billion parameters.
So the smaller AI beat out the bigger one, just by learning from DeepSeek-R1.
It's pretty wild, right? It really shows that it's not always about size with AI. It's about how well it can learn and apply reasoning skills.
So DeepSeek-R1 has cracked the code on efficient AI learning. That's incredible. But you know what I'm curious about?
What's that?
The journey. You know, like how did the researchers get to this point? I'm sure they must have tried a bunch of things that didn't work.
Oh, absolutely. They definitely had some dead ends along the way. Trial and error, it's all part of the process, right?
Totally. What were some of the things they tried that didn't pan out?
One approach was using something called process reward models.
Process reward models. Okay, what's that all about?
Well, the idea was to reward the AI for each step of the reasoning process that it did correctly.
Okay, makes sense.
Kind of like giving partial credit on a test instead of just looking at the final answer.
Right.
But it turned out to be really hard to define what counted as a good reasoning step. It was just too subjective.
So the AI might have figured out how to get rewarded without actually learning the right thing.
Yeah, exactly. It was more about finding loopholes than genuine reasoning.
So they scrapped that idea. What else?
They also tried something called Monte Carlo tree search. It's been really successful in game-playing AI.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Like exploring different possibilities and picking the best one.
Exactly. But when they tried to apply it to these reasoning tasks, it just wasn't practical. It took way too much computing power and time.
So it got bogged down in the details.
Yeah, kind of like if you were trying to find a file on your computer,
Yeah.
and instead of using the search bar, you click through every single folder one by one.
Oh man, that would take forever.
Exactly. So they moved on from that approach as well.
So we've talked about what didn't work. What about the potential impact of DeepSeek-R1? What are the implications of having AI that can reason like us? I mean, what are we looking at here?
That's the big question, isn't it? It really makes you think, doesn't it? We've come a long way with DeepSeek-R1, an AI that can reason like a human, tackle tough math problems, write code, and even teach other AIs to do the same through distillation. But we've also got to think about the challenges, right?
Absolutely. It's not all smooth sailing. What are some of the things the researchers are still working on with DeepSeek-R1? What hurdles are they facing?
Well, one thing they've noticed is that DeepSeek-R1 can be a little finicky about how questions are phrased. It's like it needs the questions to be worded in a very specific way to really get it.
So it's not just about the reasoning itself, but also about how the AI interacts with information and interprets what's being asked.
Exactly. They actually found that when they gave DeepSeek-R1 too many examples in the prompt, it kind of backfired.
Wait, really? I would thought more examples would be helpful.
You'd think so, right?
Yeah.
But it seems like too many examples can actually confuse DeepSeek-R1 or make it focus too much on those specific examples instead of using its broader reasoning skills.
So it's almost like giving someone too many instructions at once. They get overwhelmed and just try to mimic what they've seen instead of understanding the bigger picture.
That's a great way to put it. So they're recommending a simpler approach called zero-shot prompting, where you just give DeepSeek-R1 the problem without any extra examples. Let it think for itself.
Just throw it in the deep end, huh? So besides this prompting thing, are there any other areas where DeepSeek-R1 still needs some work?
Well, it's amazing at things like math problems and coding, but it still struggles with tasks that require a really deep understanding of human language and how we interact, like multi-turn conversations or those really nuanced situations you find in software engineering projects.
Yeah, that makes sense. Those are areas where human intelligence still has the edge.
Definitely. It's a real challenge to translate those uniquely human skills into something that an AI can grasp.
So what's next for DeepSeek-R1? What are the researchers hoping to achieve down the line?
They're really focusing on boosting its general capabilities. They want to improve its natural language processing skills, make it better at having conversations, and get it to tackle those more complex software engineering challenges.
So they're aiming for a more well-rounded AI, one that can not only reason but also communicate and interact with the world more like a human.
Exactly. And as DeepSeek-R1 keeps evolving, it's going to bring up some really big questions about what intelligence really is, what AI is capable of, and how our relationship with these incredibly advanced machines is going to play out.
It's a future full of both incredible potential and a lot of responsibility.
For sure.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from the inner workings of DeepSeek-R1 to the philosophical questions it raises about AI and reasoning. As we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one big takeaway you want our listeners to ponder?
I think the biggest takeaway is that DeepSeek-R1 shows just how far we've come in AI. It's not just about following instructions or crunching numbers anymore. We're now at a point where AI can reason, think critically, and maybe even surpass human abilities in some areas. And that opens up a whole world of possibilities, but also some serious ethical questions we need to address.
It's a future we need to be prepared for, both the amazing opportunities and the potential challenges.
Absolutely.
And on that note, we're going to wrap up our exploration of DeepSeek-R1 and the rise of AI reasoning. Keep those questions coming and keep imagining the possibilities. This is just the beginning, and it's going to be an incredible journey.